Chapter 13. Talents. Disciples Chahao and Lin Jingyu under the tutelage of real person King Sung of Dragon Head Peak pay respects to Master Tia and Master Su. In the Hall of Tranquility, Tia Bai and Su are you sat at the head, with other disciples arranged on the sides. In the center of the hall, two figures in white, Lin Jingyu and another youth named Chahao, were paying their respects to Tia Bai. Zhang Xiaofan stood at the end of the disciple line, observing Lin Jingyu in the center. Years had passed, and everyone had grown up. At this moment, Lin Jingyu turned his head and locked eyes with Zhang Xiaofan. They exchanged a brief smile, and Zhang Xiaofan felt a rush of emotions. Nodding in acknowledgement, Tia Bai's gaze swept over Chahao and then shifted to Lin Jingyu. His expression turned grim as he observed the two, recognizing their exceptional talents surpassing those of his own disciples. Chahao's reputation preceded him among the younger generation of Qingyun Sect. As for the young Lin Jingyu, Tia Bai could tell from his swordsmanship earlier that he had reached at least the 4th level of the Taiji Profound Clear Path. Considering he had only been practicing for 3.5 years, his talent was truly remarkable. With these thoughts in mind, Tia Bai subconsciously glanced towards Zhang Xiaofan standing at the back. Comparing them, he felt a surge of discontent. Coldly, he asked, "What did your masters send you here for?" Chahao bowed respectfully, saying, "Reporting to Master Tia, under the instructions of our master real person King Song, who was entrusted by the sect leader Dao Zhuan. We are here to discuss the preparations for the 7 Sects Martial Arts Assembly 2 years from now. Due to some changes, we were specially sent to inform Masters Tia and Su." Tia Bai snorted, his gaze moving from Chahao to Lin Jingyu. His expression darkened as he muttered, "Is he deliberately trying to show off in front of me?" Both Chahao and Lin Jingyu's expressions changed at his words. Lin Jingyu seemed ready to retort, but Chahao stopped him with a hand gesture, smiling and saying, "Master Tia, you jest. We are all fellow disciples of Qingyun Sect, and you, Master Tia, are highly respected. Our master holds no disrespect towards you." Tia Bai's expression remained grim, showing no signs of thawing. However, his wife Suru's demeanor was gentle and amiable as she asked, "Don't mind him. Master Tia was just joking. By the way, what changes did you mention earlier?" Chahao respectfully replied, reporting to Master Su, "The situation is as follows. In previous 7 Sects Martial Arts Assemblies, each sect sent only 4 representatives, with an additional 4 from the Changmen Peak. Totaling 32, they would compete through draws, advancing through 5 rounds to determine the victor, who would then receive special attention from the senior masters for cultivation." "So are you?" smiled gracefully. "I remember you made quite a splash in the last assembly. Weren't you the runner-up? If it weren't for that exceptional talent from Changmen Peak, Ziyakai, you might have been the top contender for Qingyun Sect." Chahao remained composed. "Master Su is too kind. Brother Ziyakai from Changmen Peak indeed possesses extraordinary talent and profound cultivation. I can only acknowledge my defeat gracefully. However, regarding the upcoming 7 Sects Martial Arts Assembly 2 years from now, after consultation between our master and the sect leader, some changes have been made to the rules. Hence, our master sent us to inform the 2 masters." Both Tia Bai and Su Yu were intrigued. "What changes?" they asked in unison. Chahao explained, "Our master real person King Sung believes that the original intention of the assembly was to discover talented individuals from each sect for cultivation. Considering Qingyun Sect now has nearly 1,000 disciples, many of whom are exceptionally gifted, it seems inadequate to limit each sect to only 4 representatives. Thus, our master proposes that each sect sends 9 disciples, with Changmen Peak allowed an additional representative, totaling 60 for participants. The format remains the same, with draws determining pairings through 6 rounds, ultimately deciding the winner. This way, we can avoid missing out on exceptional talents." Tia Bai and So Are You exchanged a glance, their expressions turning grimmer. Although initially, it seemed advantageous for the disciples of Dazu Peak with fewer numbers and inferior aptitude, in reality, it favored the larger and more talented disciples of Changmen Peak and Longshu Peak. Seeing her husband's displeasure, So Are You subtly shook her head to convey her thoughts. Tia Bai understood her meaning. Since this matter had been discussed and agreed upon by the sect leader and real person King Song, it was a settled matter. There was no point in arguing. He coldly agreed, "Very well, I have no objections." Che Hao smiled, "Excellent. Additionally, before leaving, our master instructed us to inform Master Tia that my junior brother Lin and a disciple under Master Tia named Zhang are old friends. He hopes Master Tia will allow them some time to catch up." Tia Bai felt a surge of annoyance, waving his hand impatiently. Fine, whatever." Lin Jingyu had been impatiently waiting. Although he was a senior elder, he didn't dare to act rashly. Hearing Tia Bai's agreement, he turned and walked towards Zhang Xiaofan. Zhang Xiaofan, feeling excited, stepped forward as well. Approaching him, Lin Jingyu scrutinized Zhang Xiaofan for a moment. His eyes reddened suddenly, and in a choked voice, he said, "You've grown up, Xiaofan." Zhang Xiaofan's heart was filled with mixed emotions as he nodded repeatedly. "So have you. By the way, do you have any news about the tragedy in the village?" Shaking his head, Lin Jingyu replied, "I've asked my master many times over the years, but there has been no progress. How about you?" Zhang Xiaofan smiled bitterly. "Same here." Lin Jingyu grabbed his hand. "Let's talk outside." Zhang Xiaofan hesitated, glancing at Tia Bai. "And so are you?" Tia Bai ignored him, but so are you smiled and said, "Go ahead." Zhang Xiaofan nodded gratefully and hurried out with Lin Jingyu. In the hall, only Che Hao remained as a guest. He was dressed in white, elegant and outstanding. He glanced over the disciples of Zhu Peak one by one, finally resting his gaze on Song Darren. With a polite gesture, he smiled. "You must be senior brother Song Darren, right? We met during the last assembly." Song Darren returned the greeting promptly. "Brother Che has a good memory. You still remember this defeated underling." Upon hearing this, the other disciples couldn't help but be moved. Tia Linger, standing next to her mother, whispered, "Mother, did senior brother really lose to him?" "So are you?" nodded, lowering her voice. "Yes, your senior brother had won 2 rounds with great effort. Both your father and I were delighted, but unexpectedly, he encountered this person in the 3rd round and lost after a few exchanges." Tia Linger stuck out her tongue. "Doesn't that mean he's very strong?" "So are you?" didn't immediately answer her daughter. Instead, she glanced at her husband, Tia Bai, with a grim expression, sat motionless. So she shook her head and said, "Che Hao indeed surpasses your senior brother in talent. There were no tricks in their match that day, especially with his cold ice immortal sword, crafted from millennium ice crystals of the North Pole. Its power is immense, surpassing your senior brother's abilities." At this moment, Tia Bai seemed to sense something and turned to look at So Are You. Their eyes met, and they both understood the unspoken words hidden deep within each other's hearts. Wouldn't it be great if Zhu Peak had such talents among its disciples?